Hi, I'm Sean Frost with Vocal Tennis, here to speak with you today about how to choose a racket. The easiest way to start is, assuming you're an ongoing tennis player, is to start with the current racket that you have. What are you looking for in your next racket purchase? Is it something to give you more power? As a beginner, I strongly encourage you to meet with a specialty tennis pro shop that has a demo program where you're able to essentially try before you buy. The advantage to that is you will get the local expertise in terms of what racket would work best for you. A lot of the decision on picking a right racket for you, along with demoing the racket, should be where to start. As an existing tennis player, most of my racket choice should come from what type of swing I have. Do I have a short, compact swing, or do I have a longer, fuller, faster swing? With a shorter, compact swing, I would be better off using a racket with a bigger head, a little thicker beam, that's typically stiffer, stronger, more powerful, that can help get the ball not only over the net, but over the net deep into the court. As a more experienced player, typically having a longer, faster swing speed, I want to be using more of a thinner, heavier, flexible frame that allows me to essentially place the ball anywhere on the court. As a beginner, never playing the sport, trying to find the proper racket, it comes down to several different points. First off being, again, going back to the type of swing I have. If I'm a brand new beginner, I typically have a short, somewhat erratic swing. Where I want to start is a racket somewhere in the middle in terms of weight and balance, able to determine from there where I need to go to more power or more control. A lot of this, again, has to do with the size of the player, the weight of the player, the other athletic skill set of the player, and also, are you going to be playing for the weekend? Are you going to be playing as a brand new beginner taking lessons? Or are you looking just to go out and have fun with your friends? Typically, where we'll start with a racket is the head size, which is most important. As a beginner, having a larger head size creates a bigger sweet spot where I'm rarely going to be able to hit the ball in the dead center of the racket. Having a bigger sweet spot allows me to get more balls over the net. Again, this particular racket here is 115 square inches. Ample head size enough for someone to get not only more trajectory to get the ball over the net, but a bigger sweet spot that's more forgiving when hitting off-center shots. Standard length on a tennis racket is 27 inches. Longest allowed length is 29 inches. Most beginners should, in my opinion, start with a standard length racket, which allows more control, more maneuverability, especially starting as a beginner. As we progress down the beam into the grip, most commonly next asked question is, what grip size am I? Very easy, kind of old school way to answer that is typically hold the racket with a shake hands grip, place your pinky between the butt of the thumb and the tip of your fingers. Assuming your finger fits comfortably, that's a great way to start with the proper fit and grip size. Typically a more open string pattern where there's more spaces between the main, which is the vertical strings, and the cross strings, typically with wider gaps, more space, allows more ball pocketing to obtain easier depth, also allows for more string movement to allow more ball friction, creating more spin. Someone who is using a more dense string pattern, usually an 18 mains by 20 crosses, is someone who typically has a flatter, more lateral swing, looking for more control. The most common string pattern today used by most pros on tour is a 16 main by 19 cross string pattern. Kind of the best of both worlds, where there's more open string patterns with 16 mains, even old school 14 mains, followed by 16 or even 18 cross strings. Again, the idea being a more open string pattern makes it easier for ball pocket to generate power, to generate spin. A more dense string pattern, which is typically what was used 20 to 40 years ago by most pros on tour, allows more strings to come in contact with the ball, giving more feel, more precision, more control, something that we used to see more often with serve and volleyers. The easiest way to determine that is based on how the racket is feeling from when, if you can remember, the first time you bought the racket. Does it still have the nice, same supple feel? Does it still feel like an extension of my arm? Is it something that is not quite the right fit for me now, based on hopefully I've progressed as a player, or perhaps I need a racket with a little bit more help? So the best way to find out, is the racket ready to be replaced, really comes down to personal preference and what you're looking to gain from a racket. Old school thought used to be, for every 30 string jobs I have, the racket starts to fatigue, it starts to flex. Now with the new materials being much more advanced, much stronger, much livelier, now we theoretically say 60 string jobs is a comfortable level for the amount of racket usage. The most common mistake when purchasing a racket is, as much as we might love a top player on tour and we want to emulate that player, not always necessarily the right racket for you. The key to purchasing a racket is really starting with weight first, in my opinion. I need to find the right weight that allows the racket to move comfortably in my hand without being fatigued by the end of the day or the end of the match. Typically, the best way to start is starting with a racket somewhere between 285 grams to 10.5 ounces, and from there determining, should I go heavier or should I go lighter? Where tennis has changed over the last 20 years is how much longer and faster the swing speed is today. The whole idea being to generate more and more swing speed to generate more power. So the advantage to a lighter racket is faster, more maneuverable, quicker through the air. Disadvantage is less weight, is going to get more torque, a little bit more impact on the arm. So old school rule of thumb is you want to go as heavy as you can without fatiguing your arm. So as an advanced player, I'm looking at maybe 300 grams or 11 ounces on up to 330 grams, which is approximately 12 ounces. As a beginner player, I prefer to go with something a little bit lighter, which is more maneuverable, particularly having a shorter, slower swing speed, something that's more geared around 9.5 to 10.5 ounces, approximately 260 to 280 grams. In terms of what is the right racket for the age, what is the right racket for my ability level, a lot of it again comes down to what you feel is most comfortable. As much as your local pro shop or your coach might recommend a certain racket, the ultimate decision comes down to you and what you're most comfortable with, which is why I encourage each and every one of you to demo a racket before you buy it. In terms of, is there a better racket for women or a better racket for men? Again, it comes down to personal preference. One thing we have learned through various testing and various focus groups, women typically have longer fingers, shorter palms, where men typically have shorter fingers and bigger palms. What we found is women tend to prefer rounder grips, allows their hand to get around the grip easier, where men typically prefer flatter grips, where it's easier to find the bevel and get the butt cap positioned correctly in the butt of the hand. What's changed over the years is from 30, 40 years ago, where we were taught to stroke the ball more flat, more linear, where we had more of a continental handshake grip, or even Eastern. Now what you're seeing, especially from the top level pros on tour, is how much further they're getting behind the racket, how much faster they're swinging, how much more swing speed they're getting. 34 years ago, common racket weight was about 340 to 360 grams, which is approximately 13 to 14 ounces. Today, the common weight with most pros on tour is between 315 grams and 330 grams, which is approximately 11.5 to 12.5 ounces. So again, as a current player looking for that perfect racket, I strongly encourage you to try before you buy. Go to your local pro shop, go to your local specialty store, and demo 3 to 4 different rackets of what you think would fit, and not only what the pro shop would recommend. As a complete beginner, again, rely upon your coach, look to get good input from that pro shop as well, and really find the right racket that fits your needs. And remember, tennis is about fun. Don't kill yourself with, is it the right racket, is it the wrong racket? It's a great sport, it's a very affordable sport, great sport to get into, and most importantly, you can play for your whole life.